What's up, guys? Welcome back.
Hello, we are the air fresheners.
Episode 22.
22!
22. Your lucky number. You have a tattoo of the number 22.
22. Which side? I can't remember.
That side. 22.
Yes. And then 11 on this side.
Yeah.
I was born on the 22nd, so I felt like this episode needed to be special.
And we're talking about sex, so of course it's special.
It is special. And it's so funny because we both took this episode a completely different way.
Yeah, we initially had the idea that this, like, the theme of this was going to be sex and creativity. Mm-hmm. And then we both just independently decided to, like,
think about it.
Yeah, and you went one way completely, I went the other way completely, but I think it's going to blend together beautifully, and I think we're going to have a really good conversation here.
Yeah, I think so too. That'll be good. You want to give like a nice little life update?
Yeah,
What's been new?
So my birthday was this past weekend. I had a lot of fun. I drank probably way more than I should have, of course. Yeah. Had some good family time, had some good friend time. All my friends came out. I just had a great time this weekend.
It was a good time.
Got laid again.
Most importantly.
Yeah. It was a good weekend. It was a good weekend. So
yeah.
New job is going well.
I feel like this was the first time, I think we talked about this too, but like the first time I've hung out with like a group of people, and it just was like so nice to like socialize and like see people that I didn't know, and like I don't know, it just felt like a really good time.
It was a really, really, really good flow of people. Like there's so many people from so many different areas, and I was like, I don't know how this is gonna work, but like it just worked perfectly.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was good.
Aww.
Good people. Thanks for everyone that showed up. But yeah. So
what are we talking about?
What about you, Kristina? What's your life update?
My life update? Do we really want to get into that?
Just a quick
update. So I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast yet, but I have to move soon. So that's been kind of weighing on me a little bit. Mm-hmm. Might make a move to Tampa. You know, everything's kind of up in the air. So, you know, just some boring like life transiting things.
Important things, but
yeah. Personal life's a little interesting at the moment, but that's always fun.
It's about to get better.
I guess.
Let's hope. Better.
Yeah. Just a lot of things changing, which is good. You know?
Yeah, of course. Change is good.
But yeah.
Change is where it's
at. It's been good so far, and we're going into like this new summer season now, so like summer starts on Friday, so I think I'm like a little excited for that because it's just like such like high energy all around, even though it's like hot as fuck.
What, you said summer starts on Friday?
Yeah, summer solstice.
I didn't know that. I thought
on
summer
Friday.
already started. Okay.
No.
Damn.
Yeah, you're like the end of spring. Your birthday's like the end of spring. Okay. So, yeah, the summer solstice is always the first day of Cancer season.
Got it.
Or the first day of summer is the first day of Cancer, which is like the end of June-ish.
Good to know. All right, summertime. It's about to get hot and heavy.
We're here, yes.
It's about to get hot and heavy, just like this episode.
Here we are.
Okay,
so let's hear it.
I think between both of our topics, we're gonna talk
mingle
about
into this.
How your sexual energy affects your creativity, and how your sexual energy is like a huge driving force behind just like who you are and like what you do with your life. Yeah. And then also too, of course, when I heard this topic, I was like, okay, well, how can you be creative with your sexual energy, and how can you be creative in sex, and how important it is to be creative with like your sexual experiences. So, yeah.
That's such a good, like, I mean, they go hand in hand, right? So like creativity, like even if you look at the similarities of like sex and being creative, it's a flow state. It's something that you kind of like lose yourself in if you're being like creative. I know like in my most like on fire points of like even editing or shooting, like time moves by really fast. And I feel like sex is the same way. Like if you're having a good time, you're not like keeping track of time. You're like kind of in the moment. So I feel like being present is such like a beautiful thing of both of those things, regardless if it's, you know, like an art form or if you're like having sex with someone that you're like into or whatever. So
for sure.
Yeah, it's like a flow state for both of those.
I'm actually glad you like brought that up, because that like I feel like that's going to be a good way for me to like bring this in. Because I was thinking about this the other day, talking to this girl that I've been like sleeping with, and I was like, she asked me like about my two different sides of like me being a Gemini and stuff like that. And I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, the two sides of me being a Gemini right now, I feel like I'm being like my boring side, like my side that's just like focused on like work and like everything else. And then I've got my other side that like when I'm consistent in like the gym and I'm consistent with my health, I'm consistent with like making sure like all the stuff that I say I'm going to do, I'm like actually doing. When all of those things are like aligned and I'm flowing, my sex life is like through the roof. So like right now, currently, like the sex that I'm having, like it's good, but like I can just tell like my sexual energy is like not there as much. So like when I'm having sex, it's like a loop, because that sex is also reciprocating back into like the other areas of my life too.
Right.
So like if I feed one of them, like it helps the other one and vice versa. So like, yeah, that's.
So you feel like when you're not like 100% with like working out or like just like taking in like, you know, like even like listening to podcasts or like just on, you know, like a strict schedule of things like that, do you feel like that affects like your sex life
significantly?
As well?
Yeah, I feel like that affects my sex life more than anything, because like after quarantine and like all the stuff that's gone on, like I still haven't had like a consistent gym schedule, and like I haven't really been keeping up with things. So like I'm 15 pounds over where I want to be right now. Like I still feel like I look good and everything, but like I can just tell like my sexual energy is not where it's at, and like the sex that I'm having, like I'm looking down and I'm like, it's a nice little quarantine belly I got there.
It's like I've worked for this.
Like I don't feel as good as I could, and then in turn like that just like translates into things. But like I'm still having a good time. It's just not as good as it was last year when I was like on point with like waking up at 7 a.m., reading books, transmuting my energy, like doing all kinds of stuff like that too. So
I feel like that's just part of life for everybody right now, though. There is really no like consistency with like routine, and I think people are just trying to like get back into that. Like I have like really no sense of routine. Like every week is different for me. Time wise, like I try to make time each day for certain things, but like it's just like everything is all over the place. So I wouldn't be like too hard on yourself about that, because it's just like I feel like everyone doesn't know like how to feel at this point. You know what I mean?
It's true. It'll come back in time.
For sure. I don't know, it's just like such a transitional time at this point, but I think that makes sense. Like your sex energy, like how you feel in that is replicated and mimicked through so much of your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like, let's kind of get into how you can like harness that energy. So like say you have like all of, because it is like initially your energy. Like even if you're like really passionate about someone, like, or just like addicted to like wanting to be with them, like that first like initial chemistry, like when your body like creates this feeling, like that's initially you doing it. It's not that other person. It's just like feeding that initial energy kind of, you know what I mean? So it's like, has there been like certain times in your life that you've like put that energy in something else? Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm sure a lot of people have heard of like NoFap, and like it's a thing where you like stop like jacking off, stop like releasing. Like I mean you can either do it where you're like not jacking off, or you can do it where you're not jacking off and you're also not having sex. And like I'm someone like I masturbate all the time. Like I feel like most guys at my age do. I feel like most girls at our age do too. They just you know don't really talk about it as much, but like when you're constantly just like releasing that energy, it takes so much from your body to like rebuild like what you just released, like all your nutrients, all of the stuff like that, that's just like just being wasted. Yeah. So like if you think back in like the day of like the primal times of like the people, it's not like I don't think cavemen were sitting around just like jacking off like 5 or 6 times a day. Like I think they were out looking for animals and like being primal and like trying to figure out
like put that energy in something else.
So like all of that extra energy was being put in other things, and since porn is like such a big thing now, and like everything is so sexualized, we're just like always horny all the time. So it's like the times that I've significantly made a difference and shifted my energy into like work, or like going to the gym more, or like trying to find like someone that I want to hook up with, as opposed to just like jacking off. It makes such a difference, like such a difference. If anyone goes like 30 days without jacking off or like masturbating, it's insane.
You start to learn how to transition that energy into something else, because you're like thinking about it all the time. So you're like, okay, I'm going to use this energy that obviously I have for some reason, and I'm going to put it into something else. I'm going to use it for like motivation to work on my business or work on this, or I'm going to go outside. And like, it's just a really great way to train yourself to not be in that like monkey mind of like, this is what I'm thinking of all the time. Like training yourself to not have to think about that, you know?
And it's such a powerful energy too. Like sex is just such a strong driving force behind like human nature and like human behavior. So it's like, if you can take that massive amount of power and just redirect it from sex into something else, like it's when you learn how to do it, it's insane.
Yeah.
But what about you? Have you ever had like an experience of where you've like either not had sex so much or like stopped masturbating and like put that into something else?
I think for me, like even when my mind is like so distracted with something else, but like sex has definitely been like one of those things, or like if I can't stop thinking about like a certain person or like anything of that, where I just feel like it's that loop where you're just like constantly thinking of it and it's not really productive, I'll do some sort of exercise. So like yoga really helps me like kind of breathe into why I'm thinking about something. I know people use like meditation or even just like working out will make you feel like instantly better. And not that you always have to like, you know, get rid of that like sexual energy. I don't think that's what we're saying. We're saying like, if that is something that's like on your mind a lot and you want to use that in a more productive way, this is how you do it, right? It's not saying that like all sex energy is bad, and like if you're horny all the time, like you're a bad person. Like that's not what I'm saying, but it's just like being able to put it into something else in your life when it's not like really beneficial, I guess. So yeah, I feel like yoga really helps me with that. Like that's just good. Being that's able good. To kind of like tune into my body. And yeah, because like, I mean, I used to work out a lot, like go to the gym and like things like that, but I never felt like any sort of exercise really made me like feel what my body was working on. Like focusing on your breath and like understanding that if you're in like a pose or like doing something like with balance, like you have to strictly like send your breath to certain places, because it's like really fucking hard to like hold certain poses for a long time. You know what I mean? So I don't know, I think that's kind of like helped me like navigate that if I feel like the energy is not like productive or like helpful at the moment. Does that make sense? Like if it's like the middle of the day and I'm like, no, I probably like don't need to be thinking about this right now.
Shouldn't be flicking the bean right now.
I try to keep that to like a certain amount of hours a day.
3 hours a day. That's
tops. It. Not at 2 p.m.
Depending on how many batteries your vibrator has.
Jesus Christ. This is not where I thought this conversation was going. But yeah, exactly. Do yoga.
Yeah, do yoga.
Funny.
Transmute your energy.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into... So what did you like...
Okay.
What did you think of this? Because we've talked a little bit about
taking it over into like the less serious side of things. I think that like for me personally and a few people that I know, like there's a massive difference between using your sexual energy to just like have a one night stand versus like using your sexual energy to just go all out and have like a beautiful experience with someone that lasts like all night long.
Yeah.
So like a big thing would be like the difference between like quickies versus like an all nighter. So like some girls, like if there's so much tension between us and like it seems like there's going to be such good chemistry, there's been times in the past, I don't really do this anymore, but there's been times in the past where I'm like, okay, well let's just like, we haven't met before, but like it seems like we're going to be compatible, so let's rent a hotel. I'll bring everything I've got, you bring everything you've got, a couple bottles of wine, and then we'll just
go at
rent the hotel. We just go at it.
That's so vulnerable. And I don't think I can do that.
Every time I've done that,
yeah,
it's been a good experience.
Really?
Like I've never once regretted buying a hotel with someone that I'm like, let's get a hotel. So, but then also too at the same time, like I could go out and I could like waste my energy with someone that I'm just gonna fuck for like 5 or 10 minutes, and it's just like it's such a it's just such a waste of energy.
Yeah.
But like when I can channel that energy into just like making an experience out of it, and like the whole scene just being like a performance, it just makes such a difference. And I feel like it's super important to be creative with your sexual energy and like what you're doing with other people, because it makes a lasting impact, and it's something that's not forgotten. So like you said, like if you're just like wasting your energy with someone,
right,
like, and it's just like a 5-minute wham bam, thanks, see you later,
right,
like why not just like have an experience?
Yeah,
just make an experience.
And do you feel like to bring creativity into it, no matter what that is, we're not talking like bondage and stuff, like maybe sometimes it's that, but like, do you feel like there has to be some sort, like you have to communicate with that person before, like prior to the experience, right?
Yeah.
So that has to be something that you're able to do with the person. Like,
yeah.
I mean, like the scenario that you just gave of like meeting someone at a hotel for like the first time, like the first time you have sex with anybody, usually it's pretty exciting. But like if you're in a relationship, or if you've had sex with somebody like, you know, multiple times, like you do want to start to get to know that person or what they would be open to doing.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's such an important thing, again, like communication with someone that you're hooking up with, because there's times like a girl could be like a 10 out of 10. And like, if she's not communicating what she's into and what she likes, then like I don't know. Like if you like something and you're not going to tell me, like, sorry, I can't help you like explore that. Like I want to be the person that's there to help you do that. But if you can't open up to me about that, like this just isn't going to work.
Right.
So like, I think being open and expressing like your creative sexual side is like incredibly, incredibly important.
Yeah.
Like if you've got a kink or you've got a fetish or something that you're into, like you're not helping yourself by not telling the person that you're with. But I understand like some people, like you might just not have the vibe.
Person.
Yeah. You have to trust the person and know that like it's going to go somewhere. You wouldn't just tell anyone like, hey, tie me up and spank me, if it's some weird person that you just don't trust.
You just don't know. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know what they're into. I think that's been like a huge thing for me, is even just like figuring out what I do like and being honest, you know, like just being in that like situation and recognizing for myself, because sometimes like in the act of sex, you are so focused on that other person, you don't even get to sit back and be like, oh, like I actually like this. Like if you're not recognizing yourself in the whole experience, then you won't ever really know what you're into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to like check in with yourself to like be like, okay, this is actually something that I want to do. Or I don't know, it's so different for women, because like we were initially taught like to just satisfy the man in the situation. So I think it's taken, I mean, I'm still unlearning it. Like there's never anything that like I think maybe some women have been like, yeah, like I'm fine with being selfish or whatever, or being able to think of me first. But I think so naturally women have to think about the guy's experience. Like you don't get to focus on like yourself in a sense. So it's a very interesting like dynamic between hearing like if you want to be creative or how to be creative, when initially women don't even think about themselves sometimes. So because I've been there, like I'll be like, yeah, the sex was great, and then it's like, wait, like it was great, but like was it really even for me? No. Yeah. Like there was nothing about it that was for me. So I don't know, there's just the dynamic of it is just so different, and like with every person it's a whole different experience. You know what I mean? You can't replicate the same thing with two different people. Yeah.
And that's like one of the big things for me, like when it comes to like hooking up with people and like being on dating apps and things like that. Like I'm so just like mesmerized by the experience of like a new person, because it's just like I have no idea what you're going to bring to the table. Like we might talk, we might get everything laid out, but like that one person that just catches you off guard out of like 5 people that just completely blows your mind, it's just like, wow. Yeah. Like I'm glad I just got to experience that. And if it wasn't for me like trying to find like new experiences and try new things and being creative, like you might never have that experience.
Right.
So it's just such an important thing to be open to your sexual side and your creative energy and what you're into.
Yeah. So while I was kind of thinking about this episode, I was just like interested in understanding where creativity flows in like our chakra system.
Okay.
And found out that the sacral chakra rules both creativity and sexual energy.
Is that the one that's right above
it's
your,
like right
in the
below
belly button?
Your belly button.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like the second one. It's like the orange yellow one.
Mm-hmm.
So the root chakra is first, and then the sacral chakra is second. And basically, like creativity and like pleasure. It's like your pleasure center. It's like where you feel, so any sort of emotions usually are in our hips, like we store emotions in our hips. So it's like where you feel you're worthy of something. So if you don't feel like you're worth joy, or you don't feel like you deserve abundance or good things, like that is all the sacral chakra. So, and it makes so much sense, right? Like if you don't feel worthy of a person, then you're, especially in a sexual experience, like if you don't feel like confident in yourself, if you don't feel like you look good, you're not going to have a good time. So it's like the feelings of feeling good correlate with creativity and correlate with like having good sex or bad sex. Like those are all in the same area, and like our emotions are like directly linked to that system. So once I started looking at that, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense that like creativity sits there too, because that's, creativity is like the extension of that power. Like I think sex is like, obviously, like it rules everything. We've talked about this before. Like our whole world is manipulated on that. Like you look at like advertising, it's all built on beauty and like how to look like this, and like look at like
sex and
just sex, everything. Like we're so manipulated by that, and everything we're told that we need to buy is based on pretty much the stigma of sex. So like that rules like so much of our life. So when people don't realize that that's like the most intense energy, and if you're suppressing that, or if you don't know what you like, it's like that is like literally the core of your being, that you're not able to access that energy. Because like I said earlier, like we create that. You think it's someone that you've initially met, like that you were just saying, like that 1 in 5 situation where someone just like blows you away. But like initially you're feeling those things because like that energy is inside you. That person just brought it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're like, that person was able to like make you express those things in yourself. It wasn't like, oh, that person made me feel that way. Like you have the emotions inside you feel the things that you feel, like, and that's why sometimes not everyone feels the same way. Like I could have a really good experience, but maybe someone else does it. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I don't know. I just think that we like suppress the idea of how like magnifying like sex is, because in a way it controls everything. But then when it comes to expressing it for ourselves and owning things, we don't. Like we just think that we can't.
It seems like in a way like we're trained that like sex is such a bad thing and such a forbidden thing, whether it's through like religion, school, health class, like our peers, our parents, whatever it is. Like we're always taught that like sex is such a taboo. But at the same time, the entire same exact world is also like, here's sex, here's more sex, here's porn, here's sex in movies, here's sex in magazines, here's sex in Instagram, here's sex in everything. So it's like, it makes us want sex even more, but we have such like a blocking barrier because of the way that we were raised around sex.
Right.
So like, I feel like most people, when they get to the point of, hopefully when they get to the point of starting to accept and own their sexuality more, they start to really open up as a person, and they start to allow more things to just flow into their life. And I noticed that there was someone that I had an experience with recently, super attractive, older, and she like didn't watch porn, didn't masturbate, had no toys, was like turned off by the idea of like basically everything. And like the more and more I thought about it, like the more and more that I could just see how like that rippled into like so many other avenues and areas of her life. And I was like, that's so unfortunate. It's just like the people that are like the most sexually open seem like the most happy people that I've met in my life. And I mean, I know people that are like freakier than anyone has ever met before, and like they're just so genuinely happy with like what's going on in their life. So,
and I think it also, because some people just aren't into like freaky shit, but if that woman that you had that experience with was able to be confident in that, she's just like, yeah, I'm not into toys, I'm not into this, I'm not into that. But like, since she lacked that self-confidence, it correlated to because she never let herself be open to any of those things, right? So it's like, not saying that you need one to be happy, but because a lot of people feel like that's like shameful to do, they don't let themselves like figure out what they want. Or maybe she's just never been comfortable enough with somebody to be able to have those doors open. Like, there's a reason she's so closed off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that sucks so bad, because like, people will go their whole life and not know. I mean, we're just becoming like, I feel like within the past like 10 to 20 years, it's just okay now to start speaking on these things of what you like. And
it's changing now. It's like the woman is important now. Women's needs are important now. Like, a woman's orgasm is important now.
Right. Like, and it was never showed before that if a woman like didn't have an orgasm, like, the man wasn't ashamed of it before. But now it's like blasted everywhere. Like, find the clip, blah blah blah. Like, everyone's like screaming it now.
Like, it's awful. But
it's just like so interesting that literally took until this past like decade for people to recognize. So,
and like, looking back on like the history of like, if you look back at sex history of like the 1900s, seeing how it evolved from like when basically women were just like an object that like men used to like get off, and like, it didn't matter if a woman had an orgasm. Like, that was almost unheard of. If she had an orgasm,
people
it was just
didn't even know
guy.
Women could have orgasms.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, I think it was like the 70s and the 80s, things started to change. But like, could be another topic for later, but it's just insane how much it's like evolved. And now it's like 2020 and everyone's just like vibrators and sex toys and hooking up and just having a good time. And like, everyone just wants to have a good time now. It's just such a socially acceptable thing. Another important topic that I wanted to touch on was the importance of taking your sexuality and your pleasure seriously, because like we were saying, like, some people will just never open up to like how they actually are and like what they feel on the inside. But I think when you actually realize that like your pleasure and like you feeling good as a human being on so many levels is such an important thing, it can truly like change you. So like, if you, for example, even if you're like just by yourself and you're like masturbating and you're like thoroughly feeling your body out, you're enjoying yourself, you're getting yourself off, like, what that's doing for you, that's like such a level of like self-care and like self-love. Like, you're
I say like, it is though, you're right.
It's funny because it's like masturbation, but it's like you're taking care of your body, you're getting in touch with your body, and you're like you're making yourself feel good. So like, that's important. And then also too, when it comes to like having sex with people, like knowing what you like and like what makes you feel good and like what you're interested in, it just opens you up to a whole new world of things. Like, when I talk about sex versus like when some of my friends that are closed off about sex talk about sex, I'm like, wow, like, I'm sorry. Like,
well, it's like, they don't even know.
Like, it's like, there's just so many things in such a high level that like I've experienced that I just like, I wish that you could at least open yourself up to the possibility of having that much pleasure in your life. But you know, everyone's different, but like, it's just so important to just like take your pleasure seriously.
And I think it, like you said, it comes down to feeling comfortable with yourself. You know what I mean? You can't feel like confident with another person if you can't feel confident with what you like. You know what I mean? Like, you have to figure that stuff out for yourself. And like, that's where you have that ownership when you're talking about like masturbation and like figuring out, like, those are all self-care things. So when you do have an experience with another person, you already know what you like. Like, you shouldn't expect that other person to have like, they don't know your magic button. Like, if you don't, they're not gonna know. Like, you know what I mean? It took me so long to realize that like, that's not someone else's responsibility. It's your responsibility to communicate what you figured out that you've liked. And then from there, say that you both want to get creative and find something else that works for you. That's where that comes in. And that's where you can start to like understand that you can both build something together that you will communicate or whatever. So I don't know. I just feel like all of these experiences, like, they build on each other. Like, I think a one night stand is like fun and whatever, but like, for the most part, you need to find somebody or maybe multiple partners that do this for you, but like that just understands how your body works, and that's where you can kind of excel in that sexual experience. Yeah. You know?
And then again, like we said earlier, like when you are having good sex and you like have that sex that like makes you like really step into your pleasure, like it's just so good for every other area of your life, because it's just like I think anyone can agree that like the night after you have great sex, like the next couple days after that, you're like,
you just feel so good.
I feel great. Like I'm on top of the world right now. It's nice. It's good.
Yeah. So. And that kind of correlates into other parts of your life. Like I feel like I like to, even like on the topic of like creativity, like the past like 2 days I've really wanted to shoot, and it's like that's interesting because of like just of recent experiences. Like I've not wanted to be creative in my like free time.
Kristina got laid.
Finally.
Kristina got laid.
And it wasn't a bad time. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just like, it's just crazy that like those things will affect your life like for the rest of the week, or you know what I mean? Like after one good experience, because you think about how you feel with like a bad time.
That shit messes me up in everything. Dude. I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want
to be a human.
I don't want to work. I'm just gonna lay in bed and think about how bad I did last night. Like, but it happens. It happens.
It's like I just feel like it's not even like a one thing about yourself. It's just that you feel bad. You're like, why did I let myself be in that situation? Why did I experience that? So like you understand like the negativity of like a bad experience. So like a good experience with sex, obviously you're going to be like, well, now like I feel really good. Like that correlates into your life in other places. So have more good sex.
Totally agreed. Have more good sex. Like, you know.
That's what we're saying
here. Just if you think something's going to feel good, you know, just try it. Yeah. Because, like, you only have one life and, you know.
Right. It's
just
like,
try it.
Stop blocking yourself.
Yeah. I was really, like, something you said earlier, I forgot what it was, but I was really thinking about getting into like my kinks today on this episode, but
now we're not.
It's making me not yet, but
well, you have to give us something. You can't just say that.
I was gonna say, if enough people want to know about my kinks, if they leave us a comment or something like that, I might dedicate a nice little slot on another episode about my kinks.
I feel like we have time to talk about
because my kinks are quite
we obviously know that you're into some.
I'm quite out there.
Yeah, I feel like that would be actually a very interesting episode.
If enough people want to know about my kinks, I might open up here soon. I've been thinking about it, so but
we'll share all of us eventually. This is only season 1.
Yeah, we got plenty more to come. I know you wanted to talk about the like how your creativity and like sexuality like blend together.
Yeah, so like kind of one of the last points that I was thinking of like during the time I was thinking of this episode was how much of music, art forms, like movies are correlated to our sexual experiences. Like so much of creativity and art is from our relationship and sexual experience. Like you think of like really good music, it's always motivated from a bad relationship or
True.
Like someone that
Taylor Swift.
I mean, I said good music. True. So I don't know.
She made a whole career out of hookup culture.
Exactly. It's just like, I mean, but she did it. She made a lot of money, like whatever. So it's just like you think about how that serves as a motivation. Like the most incredible things that have come of art is because of some sort of sexual experience. Yeah. So it's just interesting. And, you know, there's that like stigma that like artists just like are players, or, you know what I mean? Like even musicians, it's just like they have this stigma of like being toxic in relationships. Yeah. And maybe not all, of course, but like that's where the most like motivation and like inspiration comes for like creativity, I think, you know. Anything that's formed, like even characters for like, you think of books or movies, right? Like whoever made that or wrote that script had an idea of somebody, or maybe had an experience that correlated that movie or that book. So it's like everything comes back to it. Like you can't deny it. Like creativity is so much linked to what you're able to like open yourself up to, or what you're not able to, or just what you think of like the whole experience. So
totally agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Very
seriously, cool. Like try not like, you know, having an orgasm for like a month straight and just see how much your life changes. Just see how much your life changes. Every single time I've ever taken a break from like masturbating, having sex, or having an orgasm, I've like made an exponential leap forward every single time.
Because like, you directed it somewhere else.
Yeah, and people are like, well, why don't you do that all the time? Because sex feels good. And
yeah, I don't think
I don't
want
to stop that all the time.
Yeah.
But like, if you need a boost in your life, just like redirect your sexual energy elsewhere for a set amount of time and just watch what happens. Every time, just watch what happens.
Because initially, like we were talking about earlier, like that is energy that you formed. So when you're saying, I'm not going to put this towards sex, I'm going to put this energy in something else, like you can use that to manifest anything you want. Like that is your power. Like I don't think people realize that like sexual energy is our power. Like we can create fucking life with that.
Seriously.
Like we can literally create another human. Like how would that same passion and that same energy not be able to do anything you want? Like create the business that you want, create anything. Like that's just like insane to me that people don't realize that like you don't have to just have sex and like make a baby. Like you can use that energy any way that you want. Like I just get like it took me so long to even understand that was my power, and it's real. Like I don't know, it's just so cool.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Sex is strong.
It's the main source of life. Literally.
It's birth.
It is literally birth of whatever you want it to be. So
yeah,
I don't know. Good talk.
For sure.
Yeah.
Good sex episode.
Yeah. Sorry we didn't think of it the same way. I feel
okay.
like
No, it's good. It's good.
It was good. I feel like we got
to balance both of it back and forth really well.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah. Great.
But it's not like we can't talk about sex in another episode again.
I know. It's like 1/3 of our podcast. So yeah.
But all right.
Great, guys.
Thanks guys
for listening.
Peace out.